So the summer event for Dead Frontier released a few days ago, and with it came some very interesting changes. Um, Particularly in the early game, where, for one, I've noticed that the drop rate for consumables that give you buffs to your EXP gain, your speed, and your damage have now been slightly more common. I've been finding them much more often than I have when using the early game on other accounts. When playing the early game on the other accounts that I've made previously, I'd be very, very lucky if I would have come across just one of those consumables, but now they seem to be much more common. So things like soda, multivitamins, outbreak pamphlets, they seem to be much more common now, and I've been finding them more often than what I can remember. So that's been changed. It might not have stated that in the update log, but that seems to be the case. But more interestingly, changes to consumables have been made with medications and food that they don't heal by percentage anymore. They heal by number of units. So hunger units, health units. They either give you 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, so on and so forth. As long as it's in the 5 times table, it's going to heal you for that much. And any account can use those items. So they're no longer going to be less effective when you level up. They are going to have a they're going to have a value that will heal you or sate your hunger, no matter what level you are. So food is now much more much more powerful, I would say, because it's going to heal you and set your hunger regardless, and it heals you for more hit points. They no longer go by percentages, which I think is actually quite a good thing. Um, and so therefore it's much easier. Although some of you may notice that the health bar is sorry, not the health bar, the hunger bar is smaller. Um, that is because uh, a new skill has been added to the game. Well, new. It's a skill called survival, and it overwrites the stealth skill in Dead Frontier. So stealth skill no longer exists. It's now called survival, and survival, depending on how many points you put into it, will increase your um, hunger bar from 50 to a maximum of 200. It doesn't slow down the amount of food you use up in the inner city, but it makes it bigger so that you'll have to feed yourself less. Um, as well as that, there are also changes to that stat where it no longer gives you a 25% or something melee damage boost. That's been moved to strength. And as from what I can tell, the survival stat still gives you the stealth bonuses. So it's still, gives you a certain amount of stealth, so don't worry about losing that. And plus, since the amount of the level of the hunger bar is quite low when you start off, and it might throw off everybody if they haven't put any points in stealth on their accounts. So everyone gets a free stat reset just so they can change their stats a little bit to give yourself more survival and therefore not have your hunger bar so low and having to feed yourself practically every 10 minutes or whatever it might be. The most interesting changes are actually to the weapon proficiencies. Now, you'll notice my loadout is consisting of a wildcard 1851, which is one of the new event pistols, a Vulcan, and an AA-12. The wildcard requires 120 pistol skill to use, whereas the Vulcan and AA-12 need 110 in their respective proficiencies. Now, the interesting thing about this is that before, you had to get that level of skill, that proficiency, to equip the weapon. Now, that's no longer the case. You can equip it whatever level you are. Well, no, not whatever level you are, because they have capped the level of certain items. So, for example, 120s you can't equip until level 25. And level 130s you can't equip until level 50, so on and so forth. So they've made that, but at the same time, if you have the strength stat for some of these weapons, such as the Vulcan, you can equip whatever you like. The strength stat still applies though. If you have like a strength stat of 25, you can't equip a external reactive XT. It doesn't work like that. You need to have the strength of 100 to do that. And I've decided I'm going to have a little fun with this new thing. Now, mind you, although I have these equipped, they come with massive debuffs. So, for firearms, the per 5 missing proficiency points, mind you, I've invested 0 points in machine gun, I've invested 0 points in shotgun, and I've only got 5 points in pistol because that's what you start off with. But what the reductions are is that for firearms, you get minus 5% reload speed per 5 missing proficiency points, though it starts at a minimum of 20 and goes up to a maximum of 75%. Accuracy, minus 5% accuracy, minimum 20 goes up to 75, and the rotation speed of your survivor. So minimum of 20 and maximum 75 again. And it also has some footnotes that say if weapon proficiency requirement is not met, it will always have a 1 second minimum reload time. If weapon proficiency requirement is not met, it will always have a 1 scaling up to 5 depending on the missing profession points, degrees added to weapon accuracy cone. There have also been changes to melee, and they are crippling. They're crippling in the fact that if you use a melee that you don't have enough proficiency to master, in this case, they've renamed it to, they have made it so that the attack speed is slower, and also you use energy when you swing up to a maximum of 30%. So if you swing a melee weapon 3 times, you can practically lower your energy bar to 0, which is really bad if you're using a melee weapon that's 5, 10. That's about 30 levels above what your skill is in your melee. So don't do that. Don't do that. It's crippling. And same for the chainsaws as well. You use up energy when you use those, and because chainsaws are really, really fast attack speed, it's not as crippling as from what I see, depending on your proficiency, but it can be pretty bad if you're using something that's you're a few levels away from using, or so on and so forth. It can be pretty bad. Now, as I said, I'm going to have a little fun with these. Now, as you can see, I've got the loadout out, and what I'm going to do, I'm going to do an outpost attack with this. And an outpost attack, for Fort Pastor, where I am, this new account, is going to start in approximately 3 minutes. Mind you, as well as that, there's also new changes to the infected spawning in the orange zone, and now long arms and rumblers spawn in the orange zone, but only at a reduced percentage, which I actually am for. You rarely see these about nowadays, and it's nice that they've been brought into the orange zone and, you know, have a bit more, they affect more area, basically, of the map. Have a chance to spawn in more areas. And I think that's great. I think that's great. Now, I have a really bad build. Mind you, I'm going to show you what my, well, I'm not show, but I'm going to tell you what my build is. I've put all my points into strength and agility. And I have 35 endurance, 30 accuracy, 50 critical hit, 45 reloading, and I also have 30 dexterity from the musician, the musician class. So my stats are really, really bad, and I also will point out that none of my weapons are mastercrafted. So yeah, as you can see, my turn speed is actually pretty slow. As you can see, I'm trying to move my mouse around really as fast as I can, but it's just not going fast enough at all. It's just going ugh. And if I really try and do it, it's gonna try and like follow my cursor, but it just can't, and it like goes back, and it's really difficult to turn. Now, throughout the course of this outpost attack, I'm going to go through different weapons and test them out. I'm going to go to the bottom right corner because I think that is the best area, because there's no fences around, not really any cars around, fairly big open area. It's the best area. Sometimes you mean some players like to go in the basketball court, but I don't. I don't, because you're restricted by all this fence. Now, mind you, the reload speed is quite slow, but I'm going to have a go at killing these infected here. Okay, that was quite slow. That was about 4 seconds of reload, and the outpost attacker started. So now it does the same amount of damage. There's no debuffs to damage. There is also no debuffs to critical hit. But it is really annoying. Ow! It is really annoying that the turn speed is actually really, really slow, and it gives you absolutely no sense of agility. This is as fast as I can go. This is the fastest turn speed that I can go at, and it's painfully slow. It's like I'm moving like a bloody ferry. Now, the pistol for the event, the single one at least, does 30 damage base with 150 damage as crit. Now, I use an Adachi, and that actually does more damage than this because I've got so much melee damage boost. But as you can see, it's still usable. So if you ever wanted to use a level 120 weapon for a character that's got only the base pistol proficiency of 5, you can. It's tedious, but it works. It works. Now, I'm going to use something that I always wanted to use for lower level accounts, and that's a Vulcan. Now, I've got quite a few bullets for this, but I think I'm going to run out of them quite quickly. So, Vulcan with the accuracy reduction and the reload and the turn speed. It really feels like I'm the heavy from Team Fortress 2 using this thing. Let's have a go at this. Well, the accuracy cone is quite big, but it's for the Vulcan anyway. It's pretty humongous, regardless. So it's not that big of a hindrance. The turn speed is quite brutal. Let's see how long it takes to reload this. That's about 7 seconds, so it's pretty bad, but mind you, I do also have slow reload speed, so 7 seconds, that is probably the worst, but at the same time, it's going to be slow anyway because it's a slow reloading weapon. And it only ups it by 75%. So we're talking about just maybe under double. Excuse me. Yeah, it performance-wise, I think it's practically the same. Although, as I said before, the turn speed is brutal. So I'm going to complete the outpost attack with these. I also have a level 120 incinerator flamethrower in my inventory. If I thought the weapons were a bit too crippling, then I could use that instead. As you can see, the Vulcan's not really doing much for me. It's not doing much for me in terms of damage. It's just, the fire rate is a bit slow. It's killing infected, but it's not giving me a whole lot of EXP. I've farmed EXP much faster than what it's doing here with the rate it's going. So it's not doing an awful lot, which is unfortunate. You'd expect a Vulcan to be pretty good in Fort Pastor area. And as well as that, because of 12.7s being pretty expensive, considering that you're using a Vulcan, you need quite a lot of ammo for it. You'd expect to have a decent reward for it, but it doesn't seem to be giving me a lot of EXP here. And plus as well, musicians also have a 20% EXP boost. That's completely passive. So to get like 20k in the space of, or maybe a little bit more, maybe 30k in the space of each reload, it feels underwhelming. Now, shotguns are very good for low proficiency builds. I used a Sega 20 when I was in Nastia's holdout, and honestly, I really liked it. Even though I had absolutely no shotgun proficiency, it was still doing decently well. The reload's a bit painful, but it was blasting away zombies to Kingdom Come. So the reload is going to be slow, and the accuracy is a little bit random. So it seems to aim occasionally either to the far left or the far right side of the cone. That took about 5 seconds to reload. Occasionally it'll just be absolutely fine. I can't really see much of a difference. The spread is it's wider, but at the same time, with a shotgun, you don't really care because shotguns are meant to have a wider spread. Maybe, perhaps, some people might like it just to not have the amount of weapons proficiency you need to master it. But yeah, perhaps so. It's just this is doing a decent job, although not giving me a whole lot of experience, which is a bit annoying. It's actually giving me slightly less than the Vulcan, I feel. Per second, you know? I need that experience because I want to level this character up because I feel like it. And also the early game is super, super fun. Vulcan is certainly doing slightly better, though not much. I don't know if I'm being harsh on these weapons by saying that they only give me like 20k EXP per reload or 30k EXP reload, whatever. But the weapons I'm using aren't doing much. And that's not because of lower damage. It's not lowering the damage. It's because the weapons are just, you know, not sought after out after anymore, even though these weapons are doing quite a lot. The EXP gain is just not as good. Maybe they've reduced the amount of EXP you get in the Fort Passer area, who knows? But it is pretty slow for the amount of ammo you're using. So what I'm going to do now is show you something else. As I said before, I have a flamethrower in my inventory. Now this is the Incinerator FT9, and this was released during the Hardcore Iron Man event back in April, and this was released with the there's a new bug that happens. I don't know if it's new, but when you swap a weapon out in your inventory, it has the same amount of ammo in its clip as the previous weapon had. I'm not sure why. It's just strange. I wonder if that could be. Let me have a little cheeky. Let me have a little cheeky look at that. What if I put my pistol back and all of a sudden it has 250 bullets? Well, that fixed. Maybe you have to swap to it. Okay. Strange. Strange. It just happens for weapons that have a higher capacity than the previous one. Okay. Now this is a level 120 weapon, and I'm equipping this at level. From what I remember, I don't want to check now, but about level 90 explosive skill. So the effects aren't as bad. The turning speed is better. The reload speed is still quite slow, but it's doable. But from what I've used this weapon for, the EXP gain is actually very good. Like I'm getting 10k per update, which is much more than what I was getting for the weapons I was just using. And you get more gasoline in each stack, and you also get more. You get more. Well, about the same damage as you do with the Vulcan. Actually, no, less damage, but it has a more controlled fire. It's more concentrated. Now, usually when you're using flamethrowers, when you shoot them, they have like they go almost in a straight line, but you can see the particles just shift off into different areas unpredictably, and that's fine for a flamethrower. That's fine. It gives a better area of effect when you're using it, and in some cases, it's actually better than using it with the best accuracy that you can get. Now, of course, that also might be an issue of accuracy, but with having accuracy at like 30 or whatever I had it as, but at the same time, it's doing a hell lot of damage, and the EXP gain is very, very good. And the best thing about it is that I don't have to level my skill up to 120 to use it. I've only got it at level 90, and I'm using it, and I'm doing pretty well with it as well. Now, mind you, with this, you still get a degree of a varying degree of debuff, but nothing happens to your damage, the way you gain XP with it, the way you crit with it. It's just all in the way that you operate it, how you handle it. And the debuffs, apart from the melee and the chainsaw debuffs, they're not that huge. Granted, as I've said multiple times now, the turn speed is a bit annoying, the reload speed is a bit annoying, but it doesn't change the way that the weapon fires or whatever that much. And if you want to use an AA-12 when you have absolutely no proficiency to use an AA-12, you can. And same goes for higher level weapons where you have your war carbine or like a ace barrel. Now the only annoying thing is with certain weapons, like if there's a high level and you're using it, rifles and pistols can be a bit annoying because the aim is really unpredictable on them. So it probably is wise to get some proficiency points on those if you want to use them. But otherwise, with stuff like explosives, I haven't actually tested grenade launchers out yet. I probably should do. But in terms of explosives, machine guns, shotguns, there's nothing massively wrong with them when you're using them too early. There really is nothing massively wrong with it. You can use it for as much as you want. You can use it when you want. As long as your level and strength skill is high enough, you can use them whatever time you like. And I don't think it's a bad change. I don't. Now, you might argue that potentially this could mean that builds are going to be pretty strange because you don't exactly need all of the skill to equip a weapon. But when you think about it, it doesn't make any sense for you not to equip something if you're not skilled enough to use it. You can equip it, it just doesn't work as well. You know, doesn't operate the same way it should. And although there are some drawbacks to using that too early on, it still should work just fine. If you want to use a grenade launcher, I mean, use a grenade launcher. Even though if you have no grenade launcher skill, try and use it. It might be difficult to use, but hey, you got a grenade launcher, you're using it. Might have a Junker 6 with absolutely no proficiency and you're using it in second on bunk and you're getting good damage out of it and you're getting good at EXP out of it. And overall, you're just, you know, you have plenty of levels that you're going to be doing with that. That shouldn't be like that shouldn't prevent you to equip it. But in the sense of firearms, it does feel a little bit, you know, it does feel that the firearms are a little bit too easy to use at the moment. If you have, as long as the firearms aren't actually like supposed to be accurate like pistols, because pistols seem to just go all over the place. I thought I still had it equipped. Pistols are all over the place, and I've just noticed that I've lost some of my hunger. That's the drawback with the new system. I've got to eat more often, which again throws some accounts off. So yeah, that that stat reset is there for those who want to change that and, you know, improve their survival stats, so it's not so much of a nuisance. But this could always be changed to give you some more drawbacks when using it. It's like with a Vulcan, you might use up some of your energy when just holding it or something like that, in which case it does become pretty fucking tedious, but maybe it could still be perfectly usable. Maybe, you know, still could encourage people to spend points in that proficiency to make themselves better at it. You know, maybe I don't want to have like a weapon that lowers my energy each time I use it. Maybe not. So I put points into it so I prevent that from happening. Or, you know, have a specialization bonus where I have maybe some added damage if I have a certain amount of proficiency in that, because you know how to use the weapon at best as you can. So I think it could possibly use some more tweaking. It feels a bit too cheesy, is that the word? Just to use these like really low level accounts to just have a very, very good good weapon that they just don't have the proficiency for, and use it relatively well actually. So there might be some additional drawbacks that could be implemented over the next, you know, next week or like few weeks, just by testing this feature out and just seeing how, you know, what the reception is and what the feedback of this whole thing is. Now I don't know if people are really going to be testing it out this way, the same way I'm going to be testing, but from what I've seen, the firearms, at the very least, I have tried melee weapons. They are really, really difficult to use if you don't have enough skill to use. So definitely spend your skill in those areas. But for firearms, it's reasonably okay. Reasonably okay. I wouldn't say it's reasonably good. It's just reasonably okay. It's just kind of fine. And, you know, you can deal with it and get used to it after a while. Just the turn speed and the reload speed, you get used to it. But overall, I think this update is good. I think it's a good change. But perhaps maybe the firearms might need a bit of changes to how they behave when you're not gonna, you know, add points to that proficiency that you're using it for. So therefore, it's just still kind of a bit of a nuisance to use and not as easy as I'm using it here. And that's the end of the outpost attack. And that's the end of my test. And to be honest with you, I can't really fault the weapons. The firearms, I can't fault them. The incinerator, even though I'm still a good 6 levels away from maximizing the melee, what the hell am I talking about? Explosives proficiency, it works very well. The Vulcan, maybe the wider spread is what's causing the EXP gain per second to be lower. But still, I didn't really see a whole lot wrong with it. The AA12 operated probably as what the AA12 usually normally operates as, but just the turn speed and the reload speed is a little bit, well, more so the turn speed. But overall, I think the weapons, using them early on, are pretty damn good. Pretty damn good. So, and that's coming from using a count that has no proficiency in any of these weapons that I've just used, except for the explosives one, and also has some pretty crap stats. So, you know, maybe give these weapons a try when you next create a new account if you want to try the early game again. It might might work out, and it also is going to be really interesting when when the next hardcore Iron Man event comes out, because then people are not restricted to using, a certain amount of weapons. If they're using melee builds, they have to like craft melee weapons or whatever, or find melee weapons. They have to use melee weapons. They have to rely on the vendor. Whereas now, more or less, you can just use any weapon you want as long as you have the level required and as long as you have the strength requirement for it. If it has one, um, then you can use it. But overall, um, it's going to be very interesting to how builds behave from this, whether they're going to change drastically or stay pretty much the same. I personally would advise people to still build characters the same way they've been building them, just by maximizing 2 proficiency trees by level 50, well, 120 at the very least, and just going one by one on the trees, maximizing them to the point where you have good proficiency in a number of areas. Okay, well, that's the end of my review, and I'll catch you all in the next one. Take care.